Welcome back to the Weight of Her Name podcast. If this is your first time here, I want to start by saying my condolences are, of course, with you. But I'm so glad you were able to find this space. To all my viewers, I just want to say I'm very sorry about last week. I've been fighting a cold, and I'm just now getting over it. So I'm sorry if I'm just not loud enough, so on and so forth. But let's get on to the episode. This podcast, of course, is for parents who carry a name in their hearts, the ones who loved a child who's no longer here on earth with us. Tonight's episode is called Things That People Said That Hurt or Helped. Because, of course, words linger, right? They can bruise and they can hurt, right? So let's talk about both. Let me pull up my notes here. Excuse me. All right. So, of course, when loss happens, people scramble for words that they can say, right? They reach for comfort when comfort doesn't really exist, sort of, in this time of grief. And sometimes that comes out, the words that can come out can cut deeper than the silence, if that would have just had happened, right? So you've probably heard some of the sayings, everything happens for a reason. They're in a better place. You can always try again. At least you can get pregnant, right? You probably heard these things. If you have other living children, they'll say things like, at least you have living children that you can take care of. We've heard a bunch of things that probably cut deeper or hurt more than had they just sat with us in silence, right? So each of these can land a small crack in an already fragile heart, because none of these phrases touch the truth, right? That your baby mattered, right? That your baby was loved, that your baby was wanted and real. And the reason these words can sting so much is because they're trying to fix something that can't really be fixed. They rush your grief, per se. They shrink your love into a lesson, right? But love is not meant to be rationalized. And grief is not a problem to solve. It's not, okay? Grief happens. We all know that there is a cycle of life, right? So at the end of the day, someone is going to be born. Now, whether you're like some of us who experienced a child being born that has already passed, or a child that's being born that's lived for days or months or years and have passed. At the end of the day, we all kind of know one thing, right? We're all going to leave this earth. And with that comes grief for someone. It doesn't really matter. For someone, that's going to cause grief. And grief is not a problem that needs to be solved. It's more something that you're going to go through. Okay? So, if you've ever sat there forcing a polite nod while someone's words burned in your chest, right? Please know you're not alone. You're not alone. There are many of us out there just like you. We've all heard things that hurt a lot more than that silence, right? There were things also, in my experience, I'm sure in other people's experiences, there are things that people said that helped. Simple things, raw things, like, I don't know what to say, but I'm here, right? I'm sorry, tell me about them. Or even just, it's heartbreaking. One that I really like to say is my condolences. I think that's a nice one to go with because it's not a I'm sorry. You know, I think during my time and in my early on grief, I'm sorry was really one of the ones that got me. I hated it. I hated it. Because what are you sorry for? It's not something that you did, right? So I like to say personally, I like to say my condolences are with you, because at the end of the day, that's really what it is. Like, I'm sitting here with you in your grief. I'm sitting here with you in your sadness. I might not know what to say, but at the end of the day, I am still going to be here, be a listening ear, and be someone who can empathize and sympathize with you at the heart. So that's why I like to say my condolences are with you, even though there are other things out there that you know that you can say. But getting back to the topic at hand, those weren't words that tried to fix me. Those aren't words that try to fix you. There aren't words, you know, that try to fix somebody. They met me where I was. In my grief, they told me my pain wasn't too heavy to be held, right? Sometimes the most healing thing someone can say is nothing at all. I mean, simply that it can come down to that. Saying nothing at all. Just sitting beside you, letting the silence speak. Because sometimes, like I said, when I like to say my condolences are with you, it is just that. It's being able to sit in a space with somebody who's grieving. Whether you want to cry, whether you want to just sit in silence for a moment, whether it's me just listening to you talk about what it is that is, you know, causing this grief. Because, you know, not people who just lose children are grieving. You know, you lose a parent, you're going to grieve. You lose a grandparent, you're going to grieve. You can lose your favorite teacher that taught you in 3rd grade and now you're 30. Sometimes that can cause you grief. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just something saying, hey, I'm here with you in your time of need. I'm going to sit here with you in your time of need. Now, if you're listening and wondering what to say to somebody who's grieving, and you could say their baby's name, right? That's probably one of my favorite things. The one simple act to tell a parent her child or their child still exists beyond loss. Their story still matters, right? When people say Atticus' name, it makes me feel good. When I say Atticus' name, it makes me feel good, right? She's the reason that I am here. She is the reason that I'm able to come here and start and make this podcast. Because of Atticus, I experienced something that I never thought I would experience in my life. To be quite honest, I never even thought pregnancy would happen for me. And when it did, I got Atticus. And I loved her. I love her. next to my living child. She was the next best thing that had ever happened to me. I got to love her. I got to feel her kicks. I got to see her bounce around on the ultrasounds. Like, she brought so much joy to me in the 20 weeks that we spent together. Even in the last week where, I'm sitting here contemplating what's going to happen, I enjoyed every single second with her. So when somebody says Atticus' name, it makes me feel good, because yes, at the end of the day, that is somebody who's sitting with me that is making me feel like Atticus mattered to not just me, but to others around me, right? So if you are somebody who is really here and wondering, what do I say? Say their name. Ask them about them. Tell me about the person that made you feel this way, right? Because it's, like I said, it's not just our children. It could be anybody you can use this with, right? And I love to tell Atticus' story. I love to talk about Atticus. I love to tell people how I got here. Even though it's one of the most painful experiences I've ever experienced in my life, it still brings me such joy to talk about her, to remember her, and for others to remember her and know that she was loved and that she mattered and that she was still a human, a loved human, right? And oh my gosh, her pictures are beautiful, 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 beautiful. She was so beautiful. And every day I wish I could just tell her how beautiful she is. Well, I do. I talk to her all the time. I know she's with me. So I tell her all the time how beautiful she is. She looked just like me. But that was just one of the things. That's one of the things that just always brings me a little bit of peace and joy, is just to talk about how much, how beautiful she was. So, but on to the topic. This is where it kind of gets complicated, right? Because I learned that most of these hurtful things people say come from fear, not cruelty, right? When in the beginning, when I said I hate it when people said I'm sorry, that's because it just made me angry. And now, going through my grief after a year of my loss, I've come to realize some things that, yes, people aren't saying I'm sorry because, they feel like they've done something or they're trying to fix something per se. They just don't really know what to say, right? It's not coming from a place of malice. Fear of saying something wrong, fear of confronting loss that feels so big. When you talk about the loss of a child, most people don't know how to take that, because it's such a hard, heavy loss, right? Fear of their own helplessness, that they couldn't be there to help. They can't be there to help that pain go away. To have stopped what happened, right? Even though that's not necessarily their job, but that is how they feel. And that is also why I came down to the conclusion of saying my condolences, right? Because I'm not trying to fix what happened. I can't. In any situation, I can't fix that, right? So, it's just trying to be there, not trying to fix something. All right. And that's, I'm pretty sure, not a place where they're trying to come from, right? So they want to offer something light. They want to offer something a little less heavy on the heart, but sometimes that light blinds instead of warms, right? Especially when you're in that initial phase of grief, it probably feels that way. So maybe compassion belongs on both sides, right? Like I said. So compassion from the parent learning to live with their grief. And compassion for the people stumbling through their own discomfort, trying to love them the best they can. All right. Because grief has a way of revealing our humanness. All right. How clumsy, how tender, how desperate we are to connect. Right. With our loved ones. So if tonight, if words have ever wounded you, I hope you remember you didn't deserve that hurt. Okay? But you also don't have to carry it. You don't have to see it as, man, this person is really just trying to get at me, man. Why did that person have to say that, man? Like, you know, you don't have to carry that with you. 9 times out of 10, nobody's coming at it from a way where they're trying to hurt you per se, right? No. And if someone's words once helped, hold on to them. Hold on to them. Hold those words. Matter of fact, pass those words on to other people. Hey, you know, in my time of grief, this helped me. Or this could have helped me in my time of grief over this. Okay? We are all human. We are all ignorant to things until we can learn to... Oh, what's that word I'm looking for, right? Once we can learn... I mean, that's just it, really. We are all ignorant to things until we can learn them, right? So, in order for us to learn something, we have to go through it. Somebody has to go through it. Somebody has to experience it to be able to speak up and bring awareness to it, seeing as like I'm coming here with this podcast. Not that this isn't something that's talked about, but it's not something that's talked about regularly. This is not something people want to bum new moms out about or bum new parents out about. And that's not the point. I'm not saying, you know, go out there and tell this person, hey, don't be so happy about your pregnancy. You could go this way. It could go that. No. We're not talking about any of that. Right? So hold on to those. Hold on to those words. And if you come across somebody who's also in this state like we are, pass those words on. Pass them on. Pay it forward. That's the best way that I can explain them. Let them remind you that empathy still exists, right? That humankind is still kind and can be kind, right? And that love doesn't always need to make sense to be real. I mean, that is simply what it comes down to. All right. So, of course, as we come to our end, let's give a moment of silence for our sweet angel babies. I have Atticus candle lit behind me. So if you are with us today and you have a candle, near you, of course, I always like to keep Atticus candle nearby, and if you have one nearby, go ahead and light it, and let's give our babies and our loved ones a moment of silence. So anyways, thank you all for being here. Thank you all for listening, for feeling with me. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who might need it. Okay. If you like to share your story, your baby story, you can find the link in the description below to go ahead and submit a form where we will have a whole episode that talks about your guys' loved ones. So if you want to have your loved ones right here talked about on the channel, please, please, please go ahead, submit a form. I do have some stories that I'm going to put out there, of course. But I would love to hear more from the community. And matter of fact, you can also drop them down in the comments so that people who come to this video can also see the things that you guys have wrote about your lost loved ones, right? Until next time, guys, please, please, please be gentle with yourselves and with others. And always remember, grief has no finish